Really? Good morning, everybody. So we are Team Site Fight, and it's John, Jacob, Nate, and myself. I was the one to set up the repo, database instance, a landing page, some help files, and then I kind of just offered coding support to our game engine developer, front-end developer, and our intermediary between the front end and the back end. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jacob, who's going to talk about the game engine.
Hey everybody, I'm Jacob, and I'm going to bring up our game here. Let's see, there it is. So we made a game called Site versus Site. Basically what it is that it lets you create a party of 4 websites whose stats are based off of website data. So it's based off of like how many hits they get, how many links go into it, how popular the site is, how fast it loads. Like all of this goes into what the character is made of. So like I'm gonna open this up right here and we're gonna put in a website. Someone give me like Google? Okay. They're pretty good. They're considered to be a sorcerer class. That's based off of their category as listed from the Alexa Web Information Service API that we're using to collect our data. That gives them a special attack that basically allows them to use their intellect and do a ton of damage based off of it. HP is based off of like how many hits the site gets per million users. So Google actually gets about 10,839 hits per million users to their site. Their strength is 7. That's how many links are going to them. Their intellect is 17. That's how many pages people are going to on their site. So kind of how many individual pages on Google they're looking at. And then their dodge is 9, which is actually pretty low, which the dodge is based off of how quickly the page loads in comparison to other websites. And then so you click agree here, and it populates your party with Google. And every single web page that there is data for has like a different amount of stats, a different class, and this means that you can basically set up any party you want based on the websites that you like to go to. Wait, what was that? Bing? Oh my gosh! Yeah, let's see what. Yeah, let's see how good Bing is at this. Actually, they're not terrible, but they're quite a bit weaker than Google. They're not Google, but they do load faster. That is something that they can say. Someone give me one last website. NPR. Okay, NPR. Oh, I need to click on here. NPR.org. Okay, so they're considered an entertainment site, so that makes them a bard. And as you can see, basically it has now decided that you are going to be facing against Google, because they are basically the ultra boss of the internet. It creates their their class right there, and then you are at the bottom here, and you get the options of attacking, defending, or using your special ability. And I can just kind of go through around here, and it tells you who's being attacked, what your damage is, how what you're doing specifically. If you use a special attack, it'll say you use your special, and yeah, you basically are fighting until you either defeat Google or Google defeats you in this case. So
I'll keep this going while you're talking.
So in order to discuss some of the front end that you see here, I'm going to pass it to our front end developer, John.
Thank you. So I am not a gamer. I know nothing about games, and when Jacob said, let's build a game, I said, no way, let's do it. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do too much as far as creating characters or fighting or even, I don't know. I just don't know much about games. So I wanted to make something that looked really simple yet really effective. So I challenged myself to use Materialize, which is something I've never worked with before. I've also challenged myself to use Animate CSS, which you see happen on the page load, and basically as you go through the game, things will begin to animate. I had a lot of help from Nate. Like I said, Nate tied together the front and the back end. So he populated all of the progress bars with the HP and stuff like that from all the character stuff that that Jacob had created. So I'm really proud of the way that this looks. I never thought I would have as much fun playing games fighting websites against each other, but since we got this up and running, I've sent it to all of my friends, I've sent it to family. I've had a lot of fun playing and seeing what sites are capable of beating Google, which is the standard. So to talk about bringing the front and back end together, I'm going to hand it over to Nate now. He's going to kind of walk you through some of that.
So basically, to connect Jacob's information that he pulled and John's great design, I used a bunch of JS and I just copied stuff from our API routes that would post data. Could you bring up the code real quick? Yeah. API routes and then character.js. So when you make a post, I take that input and we send it to our API, which then gives us the stats for your website and everything. And then we convert that into the class, the character, and the character stats. And then I would take the character stats and put that back into a modal that would pop up when you chose that character initially. So right there you can see the choices of classes based on categories. So it would dynamically switch between them depending on the category of the website that you put up.
They're special?
Yep. So every website or every class has a different special attack that they use, and that affects them in different ways, whether their attack goes up or their dodge goes down. Also, the next thing I did was add in those little toasts or mini modals you'll see while you're fighting that update you on what's happening. And I also updated the HP to be dynamic, so it changes color as the HP goes down. And if one of them dies, you'll see.
Too good of a job here. I'm even making.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to kill this team with Google on them. But if one of them does die, you'll get an error 404. Pass it back to Walt.
Yeah, I did a bunch of testing in the traditional sense of just running the code, seeing what codes come up. I did attempt some Jasmine testing where you put a function into this sort of real language Jasmine syntax, which actually maybe I'll pull that up.
So which one would you like?
Test validate. Validate test, rather. So this was one of the functions that creates characters. If it's a shopping site, it's going to be a berserker. If it's a business site, it's going to be a thief. So it should create a player based on website entered function, expect create character business to be thief. And in a sense, this is a beginning of the documentation for the game because it writes out the expectations of player classes and all that. There's also a landing page that you can, if you could go to the GitHub.
I have to find GitHub because we don't have a link to it in here.
Let's let NPR die.
Okay. Well, so one of the things that's actually kind of cool is that the reason why NPR is not like dying here is because the boss actually will determine who is the biggest threat based upon current HP. So like there we go, NPR died, but it didn't have the 404 pop up. Sorry about that. But basically, like, the boss will dynamically choose who it's going to go after based upon its HP, because as I said earlier, like, the amount of hits that a site has usually determines, like, how strong a website is going to be. So if Google is on your team, Google, like, the boss will almost always want to attack Google because that guy is very, very strong. But it will still randomly select from those that you have there in order to determine who it thinks is the biggest threat on the team. And to go over the README, here's Walt again.
Thank you. Some thoughts for future plans, and we haven't really used our PowerPoint, so maybe I should see if that is. We didn't need it. So we're planning to incorporate some enhanced graphics, some further interaction, explain the web analytics data a little bit more. Were there any other thoughts anybody wanted to include?
We also want to make it so that the bosses themselves, there will be a kind of a dungeon that you would go through. So like it would bring up a bunch of different websites that you would be facing one after another in order to make it so that the game is a like unique challenge every time that you go and play it, as opposed to always going up against one static website. So, but what's very interesting about this is that it also provides a really unique sort of data to tell like websites whose website is actually more powerful or whatnot, because you can actually say, like, let's say that everyone in this room started playing site versus site, and all of the data was like of the winners was collected. You can say like, oh, Google, like if a party with Google wins this many times, like that makes it one of the best sites in terms of this against other websites. So you can actually start stacking strengths up against each other that way. And that's one of the like most interesting features about it, I think. So, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
How did you characterize the sites as being like health, social websites?
Okay, so we are using an API called the Alexa Web Information Service API. That's basically like, so Amazon is the owner and operator of Alexa. And basically what they do is they've created a API that people can use like for a nominal fee to go in and basically use their data in order to find like what categories a site belongs to, like what hits they get per like a certain amount, what their like rating is, which what their Alexa web rating is. So Google is ranked 1, while I think like CNN is like ranked like 37. It's like 37. So, but like yeah, we've been using that one in order to collect all of the data.
Can you walk us through some of the code you have?
Sure. Okay, so let's go to, it's in public assets, JS, update JS. It's a lot of code here. Okay, so here is the boss AI code. Basically what it does is the boss will never block because it's a very aggressive character. And basically what it will do is it rolls a random number between 1 and 2 to determine whether it's going to do a normal attack or whether it wants to do a special attack. Because if Google was just to do its special attack all the time, we're pretty certain you would lose all the time because it's doing 18 times 18 damage, which is a lot. So basically what it does is it then looks through the array of players that have HP higher than 0, puts them into a array called possible targets. And the possible targets array then basically says, okay, this is the current HP of every single one of them. So like if it's 100 HP, it'll be 100. The next one, if that's also 100 HP, it'll be 200, 300, so on and so forth. It's then going to roll a number between like 0 and the highest number possible, so 300 in this case, and say like if it rolls between 0 and 100, then it's going to attack the first target. If it rolls between 100 and 200, it will be attacking the second target. 200 and 300, the third target. And this changes every single time damage is dealt. So the AI will actually change every single time that the game changes. So, yes. Very little, actually. It's 0.00048 cents per API call over 1,000. So we've actually made quite a few API calls, as you might imagine. So I think in total we've paid about $4. That's over 1,000 API calls, but we really tested this thing. So
we're each pitching in $1.
yeah, it's very.
So, comment, I mean, I think you guys did like an amazing job, just attention to detail, the fact that you guys built an entire AI, the fact that you have health bars, and like, the fact that you're able to pull out the favicons for each of these websites. Like, you guys really had a lot of solid code. I think you guys should really be proud of yourselves for that.
Okay.